Hi, Queen.
Hi, Sam.
How's it?
I'm good. Now I'm energized. I don't know.
Hey, man, sure. What the segment.
Thank you. Thank
That
you.
was beautiful. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Can you hear the music?
Mm-mm. No, I can't.
Okay, so let me put it off because it's me only who's hearing it.
Oh, okay. No, I can.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. We are live now, back. We're waiting for the colleague to join, but in the meantime, we could just be reflecting, and you and I, as more other colleagues are
Mm,
listening
mm,
online.
mm, mm.
Oh, wow. The courageous conversations in the context of diversity management and for leaders. That is what I heard you actually saying, and it's really a different angle. And
Yeah.
also the context of the times we're in.
Yes, yes, yes. Because a lot of people are dealing with depression, people are dealing with panic, anxiety, and all of that. And it's because their environment is suppressing and they are not able to communicate their circumstances that make
Mm,
them look like they are not showing up, they are being truant. And there's also a big anxiety for this means I may lose my job.
mm,
So it's a big deal. It's a huge deal actually. It's a
mm.
huge deal. And in
Yeah.
my coaching sessions, that's what that has been predominantly a focus since COVID
Mm.
started.
You have created an awareness in me, and I'm very excited to hear my colleagues' response as they present their segments. But I think we need to revisit this topic in terms of, in the context of the now, and then
Yes.
also the power relations as you have highlighted. That you can't have a courageous conversations because of the power relations, especially if the leader uses the power
Yeah.
in the conversation. And in the times where we are, people quietly just suffer at their home offices and they don't say, I'm disadvantaged because of the diversity of power and all things. Thank you so much. We'll reflect on this. This is
Yeah.
now Esme's segment. Let me not take steal her time. Esme,
Okay.
welcome back. We are
Thank
really looking forward to your segment. And welcome back, Prof. And welcome back, Svusi. So I'm so energized by what Queen has shared with us. And I'm sure you are too, and the people on the line are also energized. Welcome, George. I can see you. Thanks for joining us. Esme, this is your platform. Please take it from where Queen left it. Introduce yourself, and then, of course, tell us what your topic is. And I know you want us to engage with you. We are ready for you. Over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. I'm Esme Witbooi. I'm an executive coach. I'm a team coach and I do facilitation. I'm in the whole human capital sphere. So I've been an HR manager for many years. My first job was ever in the United States of America, not in South Africa. So I've worked in an international environment as a human resources manager, working with over 65 different nationalities. Now, this was like a big one. This was a big one. This was where I really got to terms with diversity for the first time in my life in a very deep, profound, unique way. And I think the topic that in agreement with Sam, was just a case study of how I've worked for 5 different cruise lines over the years of 18 years of traveling. My role as a human resources manager was the implementation of diversity specifically. And out of all of those 5 cruise lines, only one was brilliant at it. And I learned a lot from their strategies and how they approach it and why they were the number one cruise line in the world. I won't mention any names. First of all, from the nuggets that was given from Queen in terms of courageous conversation, number one is that I think Abdul mentioned something very interesting. It's not about managing change, it's about leading change. And I want to translate that. It was about leading diversity. So I want you to imagine these big luxury cruise ships. They are the biggest employers in the world. You have 65 different nationalities, and they live and work in the same environment. Now, number one, as a leader, you need to know and scenario forecast already what kind of problems am I going to have with such a diverse audience. You can't be reactive when you're on the ship. When you get those problems, you got to be responsive and have a strategy in place of how you're going to manage that diverse audience. Because what might be accepted in my culture might be a huge offense in someone else's culture. So now let's look at what we're going to have, what we want to achieve with the diverse customer base that we have. How are we going to manage diversity? Now, diversity with this one company was led in a profound way, not focusing on the customer. The customer wasn't the focus. The employee was the focus. And I want to connect diversity, inclusion, and belonging. I can't separate them. They both go together very well. And how the strategy basically worked was, number one is we gotta focus on behavior. How are we gonna want those different diverse audience behave under one roof of living and working together? So when you enter the doors of that ship, there's going to be a set of house rules, because you all come from your diverse values and backgrounds. So there's going to be a set of how we're going to engage with each other. And getting that right with the employees was important, because that will in turn emanate into the diverse customers that we are dealing with. So the focus point and the strategy was, okay, we're going to have this diverse audience. Let's scenario forecast the problems we're going to have. And let's have a strategy. Are we going to mitigate those problems, reduce it? We're not going to say not going to exist in differences. It will, but how can we reduce it? Was number one, have employee wellness in place. Programs. Employees, they are far away from home, have it in place. You cannot be an organization and not have this kind of psychological and emotional safety element missing from your company. We are human beings. We are mind, body, and spirit. We're not robots. You can't just have our talent and our skill and just ignore that other part of us. So employee wellness was already implemented, knowing that we are responsive and not reactive. Secondly, very importantly, coaching. Coaching for all department heads was a must, because they need to be able to give me as an HR manager less trouble. You need to be able to train on how to deal first with your two employees in conflict. If you can't resolve it, then you come to me. If I can't resolve it, then we go to my next level. If my next level can't resolve it, we go into there are steps, right? So we have coaching program to equip managers to be able to deal with indifferences and to be able to deal with the kind of issues that will arise. Another strategy was in place, team building. You can't be an organization and not have team building. It's just impossible. You can't ignore it. You gotta have a budget and spend on it, because all of these things go back to Queenie, what she has mentioned. Courageous conversations. All these elements make courageous conversations easier, because you have team building. Teams are connected. Teams are cohesive. Teams are building trust. And because there's trust, we have not, conflict is necessary, but it's a healthy debate. I am not afraid to express my indifference to you because there's trust at the foundation. Patrick Litiani's great cohesive model of team building. Yeah, so there's trust. The other thing that we also had in place is values. Values became a big component of the organization. I mean, many organizations I've seen in South Africa, they have a list of values, beautiful, written on the website, but it's not embedded in the DNA of the employee. It's just written on your website. It's just written on your employee contract. You're doing nothing with it. So it's very important that you have every 3 months values rollout programs. You gotta subconsciously ingrain employees on those values, because values breed behavior, behavior breed character. We want everyone coming from those diverse backgrounds under this house. We are going to interact and behave under the umbrella of these values. And it was reiterated that every employee goes every 3 months through a refresher program to remind yourself how this house is working. Is everybody with me? I'm such a facilitator, always looking for a response. Forgive me.
We are with you. We are with you.
I'm not used to talking and no response.
We are with you, and we are indulging, and we are taking notes.
Okay, so now I'm talking about a responsive strategy and not a reactive strategy. So being responsive, we have all of these elements on board. Now, the next best strategy that works. You don't get orientated the moment you step on board the doors of a company. And I mean, I'm talking in the concept of a cruise liner. But these nuggets and concepts can be customized and work for any working environment. If you become aware of diversity and in the importance of it, because diversity was our greatest asset. Not our customers, not our bottom line, not our policies, not our goals, not our audits. It was diversity. And within that, the employer gets orientated before you actually join the company. You know the cycle of change? The first block of the cycle of emotional cycle of change, denial, shock, where I don't know, I'm uncertain, I'm fear. That's when the employee gets recruited. You go through shock, denial. Am I really going to leave home? Am I really going to join this company? What do the company do? We give you information to help you move through that cycle very quickly. Because as leaders leading diversity, you got to be aware of the cycle of change to be able to lead people quickly through that cycle so that they can get to the commitment phase. So we give information in that first cycle. Am I leaving home? Am I really joining this company? This is new to me. How is this new routine going to fit into my life? There's fear, there's anxiety. Second cycle that happens is resistance, frustration, some sense of grief, the loss of the old job or the old routine. So what do you feed people at that time? This is now pre-joining. You give them support. Now, in each and every country, there are agents. The agent is there to support you, holding your hand, what needs to be done. We give you support. Your orientation starts before joining the company. You get sent videos of what you're going to get yourself into. You get sent the values of the company, assessment questions. How would you respond if our value is integrity and another employee does stealing? What would your first step be? So they get programmed as to how the company wants you to express those values, because values have different meaning to different people. But now we are programming you to how we as a company want you to give expression to those values. Then from that cycle of giving them all the support in that cycle, we move them now.
Esme, I'm intrigued by your application of the cycle of change and the shock that people go through leaving their old jobs and joining this new job. I assume that you are using the context of your context, which is unique for this type of companies, being the cruise liners, that people literally go away physically because they come and work and live in the cruise liner. So I will be more shocked compared to than if I was coming to work and then going back to work, to home. Now, this you are going away from home physically, but also not coming back to home in the evening. You live in a cruise line. Do you want to just give a little bit more of explanation there for the benefit of our listeners? Because some people may think, what is the shock about going next door to work and then come back home?
It's the first time you are leaving home, you are leaving your family, you are leaving familiar territory, you are leaving a comfort zone. You're going to live at sea. You can die if something goes wrong. You are in shock, you are in denial, you are in fear. How is this new life going to fit into my old routine and my old pattern that I'm so used to? So, as a cruise lining company, we know already, not being reactive but responsive, that is what you're going to go through emotionally. So, how are we going to assist you to move through the cycle quicker? Is by giving you as much relevant information as possible, because in that cycle you need to give information, facts, evidence, references, success stories. Did I answer your question?
Yes, yes. I think it makes sense because you are going to live in the sea on a cruise liner. You're not on the land, and you probably maybe have a fear of this environment that maybe you have never even seen the sea before. I don't know of you. I mean, how was it? People may assume that because you come from Cape Town, then therefore you were not fearful of the sea. But
No.
to be in the middle of no man's land inside a cruise liner for months, and this is your workplace, that's where you sleep and work and eat and yeah.
Absolutely. But Sam, it's
And
not only your first time.
with 65 different cultures that you have never met before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's not only your first time you go through it. Every time you go back to the ship, you go through the cycle.
So every time you go on a trip,
you go through that cycle.
wow.
It doesn't become familiar.
And every time you go to a different destination, it's a different journey,
It's a different cycle.
a different crew. Or
yes, you're not going to join the same ship, and you're not going to be in the same itinerary of cruising. So you will go through the cycle all the time.
wow. Quinn, it looks like you want to follow up on my.
Yes, I'm intrigued with what you're saying, Esme, especially around the values. How do you bring in the values to build the diversity, the ability to engage different cultures, values, different cultures? I'm just intrigued about that combination.
Yeah, we had a brilliant strategy for that. It started your pre-orientation, like I said, starts before you join the company, right? So those values you get sent, but it's not just written on paper. You're going to go through videos, watch these e-learning videos, and you're going to get assessment MCQ questions asking you particularly about how would you respond in a situation of when a value like integrity is in question. So the employee is getting exposed to what the company's expectation of how we want you to outlive that value. So before you join the ship and you're not in alignment, you can just stay at home. But the moment you walk through that door, honey, it's it. You've accepted. Because we have given you enough meat to prepare you how this house is going to go down.
Esme, a prof is asking that the fact that the sea is at some places 6 kilometers deep. Did it worry you? Prof, you want to expatiate on that, or is it exactly what you wanted?
Before that, Prof.
That was the shocking moment for me when I saw the gauge and realized that, firstly, it was like an aha, a shock. 6 kilometers is quite some distance.
Yes.
And the shock to realize that is how deep the sea is in some places. It really almost like, brought a fresh perspective of, the grandeur of God.
So are you saying that the belly of the cruise liner can be 6 kilometers deep?
No, the sea.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yes, when you are on that surface, if something happens, you go 6 kilometers down.
Okay. Yes.
Not 6 meters. 6
Yes.
kilometers.
Yeah.
That was a shock and a revelation.
Absolutely. So what happens with that, Prof, I've done it so many times, is that you get trained before you join the ship. You have to do called STCW 95, survival craft, first aid, crowd management, crisis management. You do a whole lot of trainings before you join the ship. And on the ship, every week there's a boat drill. So everybody has a duty. And the ships are now so automated that for a ship really to sink, it is really 1% out of 100%. That's how secure it is. The crew are trained. Everything is in place. The last one, it's not something that really can happen. So you get trained even before. That's why I say all this orientation that happens before an employee joins the ship. Physical safety and psychological and emotional safety. Those are very key components of diversity, of how we're going to get this house to function. And I want to go back to Queen's question of values. Values was our key component because values drive behavior. So, us South Africans, hey, I miss you, how are you? And we hug. We're very huggy, lovey culture, right? On the ship, when I was like making friends and I was hugging them, these guys thought that I liked them. That is how diversity is. So to a Thai person from Thailand, if you touch them, it's sexual harassment. So knowing this are the kind of issues we could have because of a diverse audience. As leaders leading change, you got to be responsive and got to have strategies in place, which was our values driving that. Behavior. We're not allowed to touch each other on ships, except by a handshake professionally. Yes, that's what it was. Because we now responsive. We're not reactive. We're not going to let it happen and sit with problems. We're responsive. We already know this time, we have a diverse audience. So this was implemented all before. Does that make sense? So and how the values was driven was that every month we have employee of the month. And each department must choose which employee outlived the values. So we draw values, we engage. So every 3 months we have value rollout. To every crew member must go through a refresher value rollout. And every month, employee of the month, who lived the values for the month, you get an incentive. Your family are gonna get a free cruise for 1 week because you outlived the value. So there was a competition, healthy competition. for outliving the values. And outliving those values of the company, it emanates into the customers. The way they were treating each other with those values, they were treating the customers with those values as well. Respect, integrity, honesty, efficiency, excellence.
Esme, what I'm hearing from you is quite powerful, that what the culture that you built with the employees became your treadmill for how you treat the customers.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. The customers were so intrigued and gave such good feedback that they asked to come back of house to actually explore, to see how are employees living, and because we see this behavior in everybody. They ask questions about it. Everybody is like the same. Different in personality, but the same in behavior. You know, that values was a treadmill. And remember one thing, you know what's important, what companies don't do? Your values has got to be visible. Everywhere. The visibility of it is key. So when you open the elevator, you see the values. Each and every office, there's the values. You go down the corridor, there's the values. You go into the bathroom, there's the mirror. You wash your hands, you look into the values. Integrated, embedded, reminded, all the time. So talking about the cycle of change, how we move you from denial, how we move you from resistance, how we move you to commitment. When you are committed, you join the ship on the commitment phase of that emotional cycle of change, because we've already given you information to get through denial. We've given you support to get through the loss and the grief of your old way of life and going to live at sea. Once you accepted the change, you sign all your documents, you did all your orientation, your values are being accepted. Now we give you clear direction to move you into commitment phase. So when you join the ship, you are in commitment phase already. So what we do with you there, we engage. We keep it alive, we keep it fresh, we remind you, and that is how we manage diversity in a very profound way.
Let me read for you the comment from our viewer, Lerato Mhlabakwe, because you can't see it. She says that the cycle of change resonates with me. Employers, as a rule, do not filter this in orientation programs. As such, organizational values are never expressed or understood by employees. In some circumstances, new recruits come in having seen that some wrong values seems to be tolerated by the organization, and they embrace such values.
Oh, wow. Wow, very powerful.
So there is also an aha moment for me there. The point you are raising, that people, even if they have moved for positive reasons, they do go through that cycle of change because it's a new and foreign environment. And therefore, the best way to prepare them is to give them orientation before they join, because they have to overcome the shock stage and come into the company when they have already entered the commitment level. That is so profound.
Absolutely, Sam. All right, I agree with you 100%, and that's why I say this was the first time I've ever seen a brilliant diversity program where they take you through the cycle of change and you enter on the commitment level phase already, especially now with the digitalized world, because you just get recruited, you're still in shock and denial. It takes a long life cycle for that employee to become part of the team and to be integrated in the team. because they're still in shock and denial. But what if you can eliminate that already before they join?
Mm.
You will
In
have
many
better
cases,
results.
I'm going through mourning myself without realizing, because I've just left my wonderful colleagues where I was, thinking that it was about me moving. So it looks like there's some hidden emotions that is a roller coaster of emotions. You have left your old place. You're entering the new place. You are anxious. They are also anxious because they don't know what they are getting.
Yes.
But before you even know who you are, where you are, they give you assignments. So you haven't really literally disengaged and started engaging. But I think I would
Absolutely.
like to hear whose point you could input here. He's an HR manager. I mean, this is an aha moment for me. I don't know you, what is going on as you are hearing Esme sharing these insightful things with us. So,
And I think, Sam, the cycle of change is not just for work, it's for everything in life. When you get divorced, when you get a baby, when you buy a new house, when any new significant event happens outside of your comfort zone, you are going through the emotional cycle of change. You need to detect where are you catching people on that cycle and feed them exactly with what they need at that cycle. If you catch somebody at resistance, you need to feed them with the right kind of support. When you
mm,
catch them in denial, you need to give them information. When you catch them, they've accepted the change, clear direction, clear guidance. When they are
mm.
committed, now you need to engage, keep it alive. They're committed. We are committed. We're wearing our mask. It's becoming second nature. It's a habit. Engage.
So I would like to hear your reflection.
No. I agree. I agree. It's even worse now, where most of the people are working at home, and we need to do it even more. We've got to adhere to certain procedures. Like Esme has just mentioned now. So it's quite a very critical process.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So I think we
yeah,
all can, we as leaders leading
thanks.
change. I like what Abdul mentioned earlier on. As leaders leading change, we gotta be aware of the cycle. You gotta be aware your people are gonna go through that cycle, and you gotta be aware of how you're gonna nudge them quicker through the cycle to get to commitment,
Sure.
because they are going through that cycle.
Mm.
Yeah. So okay, moving on. Where were we? Please keep asking questions if you like. Now, on the diversity part, I've explained of the strategy and of being responsive to it. And all of those things I've mentioned, Queen, that we've implemented, they mitigated this issue of courageous conversations become a problem. Because now values are embedded, behaviors are embedded, it's cultivated, it's nurtured, it's becoming a part of you. You know what, Sam? I'm going to tell you. When I was on ships, I didn't know NLP. But when I trained NLP in the UK, after I was HR manager, I was sitting down after I learned. I'm like, that cruise ship NLP'd me.
Wow.
No, it was funny because diversity wasn't a program, it was a mindset. They programmed us without knowing, because it was not a program to attend, it was embedded in the strategy without me
Esme,
even knowing.
you know what you're saying is it's like Sam is saying, I'm getting 1 million ahas as I'm listening to you. What you're saying, that is so profound. And I wonder whether, I don't know whether you can answer this question for me, that was it conscious? Was it coming from experience, knowing that you only engage your employees at commitment stage? I think that is so powerful. And using your values as the key driver to create the psychologically safe environment.
Yes, to create the behavior you want. to emanate into your customers. Companies focus on customers, bottom line, money. Do what the training for customers. Focus on your employees. It will ultimately emanate into customers.
I truly hear the conscious engagement, intentional engagement. You literally say that we have a purpose here, and we want you to be passionate about this work. That's why we brought you here, and literally that will lead to us performing together collectively. And that's
absolutely. And I mean, if a leader, if you're a leader, and it's really silly to ignore this. It would be really silly to not pay attention to diversity. Sam, I've never seen the beauty of diversity in my entire life outside of South Africa, in the way it was led. It was the key business for the company was diversity. The way they led it, the way they monitor it, the way they amended it, the way they managed it as we went along. That was the key that gave business results and outcomes. People would want to rebook this cruise line over and over again because of diversity strategy. I was amazed.
Esme, I know I don't want to put you in a tight corner, but this is a great case study, and I'm sure that cruise liner is still using this, but you are very secretive about it now. People don't know where to look for this case study to learn from, because I'm sure it's a great contribution they are making to so many people they are employing from all over the world, including yourself. Look at yourself and how passionate you are about diversity now as a coach.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm glad we're having this conversation, because many South Africans are interested to go on ships. It's the biggest employer and I mean, we have employment issue here. And for South Africans, youngsters to go and have that kind of experience, it's like, it's so great for our youth, because it's almost like you're in military. There's rules, there's regulation, and our youth need that kind of discipline. You can't drink on duty, you can't do drugs, there's the set rigid rules, and that shaped discipline in me that I never forgotten. And I think a lot of our youth.
How many of these cruise liners come to dock in South Africa as a destination or as a bypass? And also, second, following up that question, I want you to paint the size of a cruise liner for somebody who has never been a cruise liner, because maybe people think we are talking about a boat.
Okay, we talk about different cruise lines.
Myself included, by the way.
It's huge. The cruise line is like a moving hotel. You get about 3,500 guests, and you get about crew members will be about 1,900. Then you get a smaller cruise ships who have about 1,500 guests. These are your retired rich old people, and they would only have about 700 crew members. So a big cruise line company would be like the biggest. Royal Caribbean has 4,500, some 3,000, some 2,500. It's huge. On the ship is everything. You have shopping malls, you have ice skating rinks, you have swimming pools, you have everything. You have golf, you have basketball, you have football rings. It's this gigantic resort moving on water.
Sure. That sounds like we must have it as a destination for every one of our youth, because that's an eye opener. Anyway. Now the question I ask, how many of these international cruise liners dock in South Africa? Because it would be wonderful that they know that once in a while they can dock home, and I don't know what you do when the ship is docked. Just sit in
The thing is, you must be
Well,
some Queen Mary comes here, MSC does come here, but your major cruise lines don't dock in South Africa. You must remember that wherever cruise line, they have to dock in areas of money-making areas, right? So if I ought to join the ship, I would join the ship in the US or in Europe. They give you a flight ticket to join the ship there, and they'll be cruising the Caribbean. They'll be cruising the Mediterranean, your the kind of areas the guests want to. Alaska, oh, beautiful. Cruising Alaska, places people want to see. So with us, we only have one main docking spot, which is Cape Town. So it's limited for cruise lines. So to cruise from far for just one dock, they're losing a lot of money in those days of not being every day at a different port. So you have only 1, 2, 3 cruise lines. They do world cruises, and they would dock in specifically in Cape Town. And the customers quite pay a lot of money to get to come to Cape Town. The tickets
and Esme, for the benefit of those who want to make careers in the cruise line, what type of careers and jobs can they expect? I mean, you are an HR manager, so probably you know better what you hire, type of people you hire, and what qualifications they will have.
Within the cruise line, there are many different roles. It's like a normal company. You have a finance department, accounting department, you have HR department, you have training and development department. Just picture a corporate company with all those departments, right? You have restaurant department, you have your engineering department, the guys, you have your plumbing, people who do the plumbing maintenance. You got all of those respective, the IT department, e-learning, crew learning center department. You have it's a business, it's a corporate company, but the service obviously is providing a service to a guest of an experience, which involves, taking them to these different destinations, fine dining. They have swimming pools, they have restaurants to eat out at. It's like you going on holiday on the resort, and whatever services you get from there, you would get on the ship. They have ice skating rinks that needs to be maintained. So there's a lot of jobs on the ship, a lot, really, really a lot. I see Cecil ask me here. Sorry, Sam, I don't know if I asked you a question. Did you capture the values?
Yes, yeah, sure.
Or acronym to remember? Respect, honesty, integrity, excellence. Yes, but I love one company. We had an acronym. This was one of the first companies I joined. It never left me. I love my life by it. It's called the Gold Anchor Standards. Greet and smile for the gold. The gold stood for greet and smile. O, own the problem. L, greet and smile. Greet and smile, own the problem, look the part, deliver the wow. And I think my first company ever, I live by that. Greet and smile all the time. Own the problem. A problem comes to you. It might not be in your jurisdiction to solve it. Escalate it. Follow up until it's solved. Look the part. Always look the part. Look presentable. Look, you are ready to work. Have the energy. And deliver the wow. Means go above and beyond. Give excellence. That was just a small little acronym for one of the years ago companies that I used to work for. But the most profound one was integrity, was excellence, and it was efficiency. Efficiency was very important because on a cruise ship, you need to respond very efficiently, very quickly to customer needs. And having that as a value was also very key. But the most important part, I've never seen a company having values everywhere you go. It was programming, completely NLP programming, everywhere. Even in the crew quarters, living quarters, you are faced with those values. You can't escape it. It's in your face. So I think that was one of the driving tool behind behavior, because when it comes to indifference, which was very minimized, one could always challenge with the values.
Mm.
That was like
Yeah.
your rules of engagement. We can always bring back the values, remember our values, because and one can challenge in this respect, of integrity. What does that mean to you? How did you engage with integrity in doing that?
I guess if you,
So
what you are saying, Esme, is that your organization then had diversity and values aligned, and therefore, if people respect the values, invariably they will actually meet the expectations that your diversity strategy had set. So
thank
you
you.
are again sharing with us a methodology you can use rather than having people in a workshop and trying to drill it into their head that diversity is important. You just align it with values, and then you make values drilled in the mind of the people, and then automatically you deliver that diversity, which for you was the baseline for giving good service, respectful service to your clients.
Absolutely, Sam. You nailed it right on the spot. The methodology was the values. It's simple, doesn't cost a lot of money. Take it, drill it, nail it, embed it, make it everything, make it visual, put it everywhere, and that is your key for the cultural and behavior you want. That was the foundation, values. Because
Mm.
now in our companies, we just see it written on a piece of paper. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody even looks at it. I work in companies, I don't even know their values, Sam.
Mm, mm, mm.
If I
Yeah,
want
because
their values, I have to
there's
go and
no
get it
work,
from my
because there's no work behind it. Look at the example you're giving us that every month you reward employees that outlived the values. I
the
like
values.
outlived the values, not
Yes,
just
yes,
recognizing them, but outliving them.
yes. Outliving them, coming from the customer feedback, coming from managers feedback, coming from different sources. This was the employee. Then we take from each department, we have a huge celebration, food, everything. They get a certificate of employee of the month. It get posted on the wall. They were the employee of the month. At the end of the year, we make a big draw of all of the employee of the month, and then their family get maybe a 1 month free cruise for performance of values. Engage, engage, engage.
Some people may say, yeah, well, of course you can do all this because you have got all this time. You live in the seams. You have all this time to be so detailed.
How do you mean? Sorry, Sam?
As some people may say, yeah, it's doable because you live in the sea. You have all this time to do all these nitty-gritties.
No, it's
What do you
not
say
that you
to
live
that?
on the sea, Sam.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
just
of course we
asking.
have
I'm
to
just
do
some people
these
may say,
things.
yeah, you're full
But
time in
I'm
the
going to
sea.
tell you, number one is, Sam, you got to ask yourself as a leader, what is your main priority in your business? Is it your bottom line or is it your people? Because energy goes where attention goes. What's your attention? We do shortcuts. We want customers' money. We train employees to get customers' money. You need to understand, for longevity of your company, what is your focus going to be, where you're going to put your energy in for long-term permanent results. Because you must
Just
remember,
to follow up on that, let me read Lerato's input following on the point you've just said. She says, I guess if the employees who are the most important customers, the internal clients, the internal clients are fulfilled and treated with respect, it is easier for them to mirror that to the external customers.
absolutely nailed it, spot on. And I want to add on to that in how we played, even with how I'm going to bring in inclusion. Because now you see, because we started orientation before you join the ship using the cycle of change. When you join, you're committed. We've included you. You've become, you are now part of the family. You're sitting at home, but you're already part of the family. psychologically and emotionally, we've engaged you. You know, so we've included you. So when you join the ship, you get a buddy. There's going to be somebody that you're going to buddy up, who's going to make you familiar with all of the new environment. And at the end of your 1 month, your buddy is going to sign off. They've shown you this, they've done that, they've shown you this, and everything that is relevant. So we included you. Other elements of inclusion of what we did is very important. Of inclusion of the employees was not just giving them all of the employee wellness, the coaching, and all of those things. One of the major part of it is recognizing each and every country's most significant political days. Like South African Heritage Day on a cruise line is being celebrated. It's acknowledged.
That is based, you count the nationalities and every nationality that is there, you include it, or is it all nationalities?
All nationalities. We have a list as HR, how many nationalities. Filipino Independence Day, South African Freedom Day. We have those as a list out of all of we have. Then we acknowledge it. We're going to make a party, a celebration around it. That is part of belonging. Now we're making you feel you belong. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
We recognize each and every country. And then I'm talking from a cruise ship, I'm looking at a company here. Recognize significant, not just South Africans are in your company, there's Zimbabweans too. There are people from Ghana too in your company. Recognize significant days of political days of their life, Freedom Day, Independence Day, and acknowledge that as much as you acknowledge South African days. They feel a sense of belonging. They feel included. Little things like that, Sam, it doesn't cost much. It's little thing, acknowledgement. You know, Ramadan for Islamic people, the same way we give attention to Christmas for the Christians, Ramadan was also recognized. We made provision for prayer times for the Muslim people. We made provision for the eating times, what they cannot eat, allow food. We made provision. We acknowledge there's inclusion, there is belonging being created. You're not just here for your talent and work. We recognize you as a holistic human being, and we try and meet your needs holistically. So we treat you as an asset. It was done so well, Sam. I tell you, people, when their contracts come to an end, they ask the company to extend it. They want to stay longer. It's because
so the retention levels were very high, I guess.
Were high, yes, because they had a sense of belonging. We had different rooms where there was a prayer room for Christians, prayer room for the Islamic people. I mean, obviously in that context it worked, but the moment you can allow people to spiritually give expression to their spiritual self, you are diminishing problems and issues. Because there is where they find their comfort. There is where they find their source of strength. So we make provision for them to practice their different beliefs and religious systems, right? We made provision for them. There was a crew. We had a gym for the crew. We have swimming pool for the crew. Okay, in that context it worked. But what I'm saying in a corporate field now, how can we use those principles? We can't do the same thing, of course, principles, and embed it into our corporate conversation by looking at diversity with a different eye, with a different mind's eye, not as a program, not as a problem, not as an issue, but as a mindset.
Esme, what I'm hearing is diversity as a lifestyle, not even as a mindset, as a lifestyle.
You nailed it for me right there, Queen. Lifestyle. When you walk down the corridor, you must see crew members, greet and smile. You must greet everyone and smile down that corridor. You need to live those values in the office, in the corridor, when you're off work. Everybody was, that's why the customer's saying, everybody is the same. It's not normal. I think my time is coming to an end right now.
Yes, before Esme, I see Swiss is asking, are all employees required to maintain their licenses, e.g. airline flight attendants? So who you want to explain that, or is it clear to you, Esme?
Well, I don't understand the question. Come again, Sibisiso?
Okay, it's like like in airlines, flight attendants, for instance, they are regarded as safety officers. So they are regulated by CAA, and they are required to do safety training and all of those things. And there's a license that they've got to maintain. They've got to renew that license all the time. So I wanted to find out if the same principle applies to your industry.
Yes, everybody who works on a cruise ship has a safety license to maintain. Your crowd management and crisis management is due for 2 years renewal. Your safety other trainings due for 5 years upon renewal. You cannot join that ship without that license because it's for safety of the ship. So there is license that you have to maintain to be a crew member, any crew member, all of them. And it's very important that you do. Yeah.
You have a follow-up question?
It's very easy. Sorry, CBC's, it's very easy to maintain because when cruise line hire you, they treat you very well, right? They pay for your flights, they pay for your trainings. When you board on the ship, you get a sign-on bonus. They pay for you to get there, and you already feel like an asset. You feel a belonging. You feel great.
No, that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
it's been great. But Sam, I spoke in context of a cruise line, but I want us to remember all. I've gave some nuggets, but I for me, you've asked me to use the cruise line as an example, yes, but there are principles embedded in there that are very useful for us that we can employ in terms of diversity becoming a lifestyle.
I think that's why. I think that's the questions we has a follow-up question that we has asked in the chat there.
What are the questions in South Africa who resist diversity and inclusion? I must tell you, CBC, so when I came back, I was very depressed. I didn't fit in any company because I was programmed for all these years in this diversity and inclusion and way of being. So that's why I work for myself. I don't think I can ever fit into any company because I just can't lower my standards. I'm a rebel against how they are managing diversity. So and in companies who resist diversity and inclusion, we need to actually go back to leadership, because they are the only ones that can lead diversity. We need to go in the change of mindset up there in terms of coaching, in terms of going from a fixed to a growth mindset, and making them see how diversity can actually be your greatest asset ever. And any company that can utilize some of the principles I've mentioned, you can be one of the top performing companies if you jump on the wagon from today and start making diversity your number one priority. I tell you, I guarantee you can be the head of your market. Don't underestimate its power. Human beings are unique. Diversity is a beauty.
I hear you saying that, and I think the message here is, if you see it as your business, as your core business, because when you're dealing with people, then there's there is no doubt that it will be felt at the bottom line. And I think maybe what we went wrong with in South Africa specifically, maybe other countries as well, is that we see it as it's something we have to comply with. It's an expense, it's an inconvenience, and yet it's about our coexistence. So, and I think Sbu's question is very pertinent. What is your advice to companies that are still resisting diversity, and why do they resist diversity if it is so powerful?
Yes.
So
my answer
enabling.
to that is, let's not, slash them down. I believe the reason why they resist it is because they cannot see the benefits of it. Does that make sense? It's not in their awareness. Because you can't change what you're not aware of.
So where must the work start?
The work needs to start with leaders. They are the one to lead diversity in companies. It needs to start with leaders. We need a change in mindset there, because they need to lead it. If we can show them case how diversity is the most powerful asset, and once you manage a lead diversity, having these principles embedded in your strategy. You must remember, it's not a program. At the moment, we're all treating it as a program. No, we are saying this is the vision, this is the mission, this is where you want to go. Okay, based on that vision, let's look at diversity, and let's look at how we can implement it in all components and elements of the business. Not just from values, not just from behavior, from policy perspectives, everywhere. And what's our strategy going to be for the next 3 years of embedding diversity? How are we going to monitor it? And how are we going to measure its results? You have to give it a chance. You have to give it a try. And it's not just cruise liners, because we are different cultures from different backgrounds. Each and every human being is diverse in their own way. My father is Xhosa, my mom is colored. I'm diverse. I'm a mixture of everything. So we all are diverse in our own different ways, not just racially, but psychologically, emotionally, in many different ways. You can't ignore that as a leader.
Esme, I have a question. It's given what Sam is saying about, especially for us in South Africa, the way diversity and inclusion was positioned. It was positioned to be a tool that redresses the ugly of our inheritance. And therefore, the resistance comes naturally, because the way we position it makes people want to defend, which is what I said. So if you were to remove the label diversity, what would be your advice to leaders in making people coexist?
Making people coexist and removing the label diversity, which I think is very important, because it's just overused and it's misunderstood. I would go back exactly to what I explained to you. It's something that you don't talk, you don't say it, you just have it in your strategy. People don't know it even. I explained to you how we use the cycle of change. I explained to you how we use programs. I explained to you how we ran with the values. Nobody knew it was actually a diversity strategy. The name was not mentioned. And in no way people were part of something bigger, greater. It was not.
That sounds like a Nike slogan. Just do it.
Just do it. Get it in the strategy and just do it. What more do you want? And just do it. So Queen, do you see where I'm coming from? Stop. We need to stop mentioning diversity. Stop making a program around diversity. Look at your business where you want to go, and embed structures in it. It's almost like neuro-linguistic programming. You are involved in something, but you don't even know what the name is, but it feels right and it feels good, and I belong and I feel included and I am content and I'm happy, but they don't know it's actually a diversity strategy. Do you get me, Queenie?
I completely love that, because I believe that it's the labels that stand between what we want and where we are.
Absolutely.
So, and if we said to leaders, look at your people, look at what you need to do to get them. We talk about buy-in. We get them to buy in, because all you said today, for me, sounds like the cruise liner looked at who the people are, and they said, what do we need to do for these people to create this?
Thank you. A utopia. A utopia.
Ah, there we go.
What's our strategy going to be for utopia? Let's start from there, move them there, and in no way we got what we want. Our customers get what they want. We are successful.
That's what our brother Abdul calls lead diversity. Don't manage it.
Yes, thank you. That goes very well with Abdul. Don't manage it. Don't say it. Don't name it. Lead it. Just go. Just know where do you want your business to go. Who's gonna take your business where you want to go? Not you, not your machines, your people.
Wow.
Cohesively. Focus
Beautiful.
on that.
We're gonna come back to this wonderful things you have shared with us, Esme. We can listen to you for forever. In closing, I want you to list the top 5 cruise liners. I know you have worked for 3 of them. Can you just list the top 5 cruise liners in the world for those who want to apply for jobs in the cruise lines, so that they can go in Google and find them?
Yes. The cruise liners are quite open now for employment. They are starting to run at the end of this year. And I do encourage a lot of our young people who's unemployed. Great opportunity, good money, great stuff. Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, Carnival Cruise Line. Carnival. they had a brilliant strategy. Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, also P&O Cruise Line. Then also Oceania Cruise Line is also a great cruise line to work for, and also the Queen Mary 2 cruise line, and also those for me are the real top. And I would also include Princess Cruise Line.
Yeah, I guess if they just Google the top cruise liners, they will all come through. And but thank you for sharing with us, and then we are really grateful that we have a South African like yourself that has experienced this, and we can't take that for granted. I mean, these are areas that some of our young people think they don't look at for jobs because they don't think they exist, and they think they can't. So thank you very much for the insights and for sharing. And then I'm sure when we do next year, when we do our career guidance, LEKGOTLA, maybe we should bring you again to talk about careers in the cruise line industry. I don't know what you call it. What do you call it? Is it the cruise line industry? Or what do you call that sector? What industry?
Yeah, careers in cruise line industry. And there are quite a lot of them. And there was one point I wanted actually to have an agency to get our youngsters unemployed and connect them to cruise line companies. And then COVID happened, because there's a lot of jobs, and it pains my heart to see young people at home doing nothing. And you don't need a PhD or whatever, those top. It depends what position. But they are your positions, they are positions of plumbing and waitressing, and they earn big money, Sam. I
In
mean,
hard currencies.
in that dollar currency, untaxed and no expenses, you come home loaded.
Wonderful.
Please find me a job as a coach on the big one.
Quite frankly, one of them approached me to come back. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm very comfortable.
Great stuff. Great stuff. No, I think you must become their coach. And I think the idea of starting an agency to help our young people find jobs there, I think it's absolutely necessary, because you were working, but you have seen the world. Your worldview has broadened, and I think those are the spin-offs of being in those environments. It's like going and live overseas in a foreign country. You over and above the job, you come back having learned something about foreign cultures and foreign countries. So wow, we can talk forever. Let's take a break. We have made notes. We will come back during the reflection panel. We will be joining again at 12 o'clock South Africa Standard Time, midday, and we will be listening to Prof. Cecily Bulibe is with us here, my fellow expert in diversity, and he's going to give us a case study referring to his book, Salt and Pepper, The Challenges of Diversity Management and Inclusion. I don't know why he called his book Salt and Pepper, but he will tell us that, and then his book on procrastination and another third book on resilience. So join back at 12 o'clock Standard South African time, and we are using a different link to pre-connect to the studio. And our public viewers and listeners, you have the links that you used to be with us. And thank you for following the conversations. Thank you, Esme. I think I must, where is that way clapping here? I don't see the clapping icon here. I needed to give you a round of applause. If I was still young and looking for the job, I was going to go and apply for a job in the cruise liner. Unfortunately, I can no longer go back to the world. Thank you very much. We'll connect at 12 o'clock midday.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.